overpopulation so long predicted has stolen upon us. It's getting worse week by week.
The world has around 7.3 billion inhabitants. We have added 1 billion people since 2003 and 2 billion since 1990.
Today, humanity uses the equivalent of 1.6 planets to provide the resources we use and absorb our waste, according to George Ciatalos. This makes overpopulation one of the biggest problems we face and will inevitably continue to be a huge problem as long as humans exist on planet Earth. Due to overpopulation, the amount of our natural and required resources for our survival are declining. Not only is overpopulation causing that, but it also branches out to other urgent environmental problems such as human migration, large amounts of energy consumption, and even global warming and climate change. More people, more problems. Overpopulation is defined as the function of the number of individuals compared to the relevant resources that we need to survive. This is a graph made by John Reuter, showing as we move forward in time the population is rapidly increasing while our resources are rapidly declining. As you can see, this function is getting worse than ever, and we need to start doing something about it. This map of future water scarcity shows that the countries in red will be running out of water by 2025. The white areas are the only ones without a water outage problem. I say that we all need to do something about this because since we are dealing with population, everyone is impacted. We are all stakeholders and so are the policymakers, and we need to make a change in order to save future generations. So even though to us it may not seem like something that needs to be addressed right now, if we just ignore it now and wait until later, it will be too late. My plan is to inform policymakers by spreading the word with this documentary of the consequences of putting this problem off for the generations down the road to deal with. Then I will propose solutions like to stop from giving financial rewards to parents based on their number of children they have, and to provide universal access to safe and effective birth control options in order to reduce fertility rates. This way, when they are informed, they can lay down policies for the other stakeholders, which are us, to follow. Do you believe that overpopulation branches out to different problems like global warming, pollution, and human migration? What's your reasoning?
Well, when I went to China in the summer of 8th grade, I definitely noticed a ton of overpopulation. And since there's so much activity like driving cars, the more cars on the road, the more population in the air. And in China, you couldn't even see the sun. There's so much pollution there. And then human migration, I know that since there's so many people in areas like China and India that it's hard for them to like make a name for themselves, so they move to America to try to further their career.
What effects of overpopulation have you noticed in China?
Well, in China, it's really hard to find adequate housing. I know that in the outskirts of all the cities like Xi'an and Beijing, there's just abandoned hotels just everywhere because people can't afford it, but then they're just building more and more cheaper housing so that they can try to get as many people in shelter as they can.
Have you heard of any groups or associations trying to solve the problem?
I know that there was a recent agreement called the Paris Agreement, which involves a bunch of countries coming together to fight global warming, and I believe their goal is to lower the average temperature of the Earth by a couple degrees Celsius, just to help.
Is it harder to access required resources, including places to stay, water, and food, compared to here?
Definitely when I went to China, like I mentioned before, the living space was really hard because people don't have a lot of money and there's not a lot of housing for everyone. So everyone's in constant competition to fight for that housing that they can afford. And I would also assume jobs and stuff, so that's why people might not have enough money, and that creates a problem for food and water, or clean water, because you have to pay for that. So.
Thank you.
Human migration, of course, because especially in Cambodia, there are people who live in the countryside, and they're going to more of the city areas because they think there's more hope for their future children and the future generations of their family. And so when they go there, there's a huge migration of people and pollution because, especially in Phnom Penh, there's garbage everywhere. Like, I went to my uncle's house, and he lived on a lake, and they didn't have a garbage can, so I asked, where do I throw out this water bottle? He said, oh, just throw it out the window into the lake. And I was like, what? But how would that, because their garbage system, they don't have one. There's no like PUD there. So they don't have a really good garbage system, and that also affects the pollution, but the amount of people in one area affects pollution too, because there's like, oh, well, there's already garbage on the side of the road, I might as well just go ahead and throw some there. And also global warming, because like cities are more populated, and so they have more industries, and so with more people there's more jobs, more industries, more production of CO2 and stuff like that.
What effects of overpopulation have you noticed in Cambodia?
There has definitely been a lot. The one that you recognize the most is probably traffic, because the traffic there is just crazy, because there are barely any lanes. It's mostly mopeds. Crime rate definitely increases because also the police force there isn't as good as it is here. And so crime rate goes up. It's hard to get clean water. So in Cambodia or any third world country, you can't drink out of the tap. You have to buy bottled water. Even if you go to a restaurant and you get water in a glass, you shouldn't drink that because it probably came out of the tap. Or if they probably would give you bottled water if they're giving you drinking water. And so,
do you know if they have access to birth control to reduce fertility rates?
I'm pretty sure they do, because it's becoming a more modernized country and city. But I think the reason behind overpopulation is so most of the people who live in Phnom Penh didn't live there 20 years ago. They probably lived in the countryside, so their mindset is very according to their old customs. So if they became from rural areas, most people in rural areas would want many children so that they could have farm hands. They still want to have a lot of children because that's just the way that it's been for so long. And then so with more children, you get more people, and it keeps going on and on.
Is it harder to access required resources, including places to stay, water, or food, compared to here?
It is, yes, because there's so many more people, and there's less space to sell food and stuff, and it's less, I know that it's less organized than it is here.
As you can see, it's not only me who notices overpopulation effects in different areas of the world, like human migration, global warming, pollution, loss of fresh water, and places to stay. But it's also people like them who have experienced living there firsthand. Do we want those problems to spread all over? I don't think so. According to the Global Institute of Science Academies, population patterns of consumption should be of major concern to policymakers because they determine the rates at which natural resources are exploited and the ability of the earth to sustain and provide the food, water, energy, and other resources required by its inhabitants. Some people think overpopulation is a myth because they believe we aren't running out of natural resources. This is a quote from LifeSite News. The earth is awash in water. Oceans cover 70% of the planet's surface. You cannot use up or destroy water. Leon Stewart from BBC can counter this. In just 15 years' time, half the world's population could be living in areas of high water stress, places where there isn't enough water to go around. So overpopulation is a huge problem that will inevitably keep growing. We can't stop people from having babies, so although we can't stop it, we can control it so it doesn't get out of hand. The only way this can happen, though, is if we all take part in letting policymakers know they should make policies to control the population, but we also would need to follow these policies. It would be a hard adjustment, but if we just get through it, it will put an end to other global impacts as well, so we'll all be better off, and so will the future generations.